I'm very pleased to be here with so many old friends, and I see there will be some new friends. Thank you, thank you, thank you. It's tragic that we're here, isn't it? Isn't it? Is this ludicrous or what? Yeah. I will I'm waiting for a few more people to sit down, then I'll run that opening video for just a little bit. But when I began this research back in 1975 at Case Western Reserve University in Cleveland, Ohio, I had young daughters, and I thought, I better hurry because I want them to be able to get married and find nice guys. And as Dr. Fagan mentioned Playboy, you'll notice that I will focus a great deal on how we got started. I'm the historian in this issue. And I deal with the history of how you all ended up sitting in those chairs instead of other chairs. And I would say that we have two single key philosophers, if you will, of the sex trafficking movement. The first one we'll quickly look at is Dr. Alfred Kinsey. So I would say the sex trafficking movement began in 1948 at Indiana University. And I hold them accountable, and we need to hold them accountable. And then moved to Hugh Hefner and Playboy magazine. And I will say that Dr. Marianne Layden, brilliant presentation. Thank you very much, Dr. Layden, as always. Really identifies every single solitary permission-giving concept that we see now in hardcore little telephones everybody's looking at, was already in present, in complete form, in what magazine, please? Playboy magazine, absolutely. So we don't get to where we are from today. We get to where we are from yesterday, and from 20 years, and from 40 years ago. So we would not have grandchildren looking at hardcore, vicious materials and accepting that, except that Granddad was tricked in the first place when he thought that what he was looking at in Playboy was just girly pictures. Can we hit that, open up with that video bit? I'm going to just hopefully play a short few minutes out of the Kinsey cover-up, one of many documentaries out there on the influence of Dr. Alfred Kinsey on your lives and mine and the nation and the global community. If it can go up there, and if it can't, we'll continue talking. So how many of you have seen really hardcore, vicious pornography? Raise your hands. How many of you have seen Playboy? Raise your hands. Ah, really? Well, now. So we get the impression that there's a connection between the one, right, and the other. And when we're looking at bestiality, if you're looking at homosexuality, if you're looking at sadomasochism, if you're looking at abortion, if you're looking at the discredit given to marriage, if you're any and all of those worldviews comes out straight out of two center places, and sex with children, by the way. The first would be Kinsey, and the second would be Playboy. And in terms of sex with children, let me tell you, I was told that I should put up on my bio the most important thing, and that is that in 1994, Playboy magazine sued me for libel.
Married women were having affairs.
Hold it 1 second, thank you. I'm going to get this out. Sued me for libel because I said on a Dutch television station that Playboy produced child pornography, and pushed incest, right? So Playboy will never sue me here. Please do, because in the United States, thank you, because in the United States they had a snowball's chance in whatever that place is. But in Holland, they thought they did, and it went to the judge in Amsterdam. Every newspaper in Holland carried the headline that Playboy lost that case. Now consider this. That was Amsterdam. That is the center of pedophilia, for goodness sakes. That's where everything goes. We're going in that direction now with medical marijuana. We won't go over there right this minute. So if you can win in Amsterdam, Holland, against Playboy for promoting child sexual abuse, child pornography, and incest, much less everything else, can you win in the United States? You bet you can. Anywhere in the United States, if we if we proposed that kind of lawsuit, we can play it now, thank you? No, we're not. Okay, we aren't going to do that. Okay, if we did that, we could win anywhere in the US of A. So what we didn't play was the Kinsey cover-up. When you walked in, you kind of got a sense of that. It's a, which I don't have, but anyway, it's a DVD you can get outside. I expect every single person in this room to walk out of this place with a copy at least of one, if not both of my books. And I'm not joking. I'm absolutely dead serious. I did not write that for my, I used to work for Captain Kangaroo. I used to be a songwriter. I used to sing and do fun things. And I shifted all of that to be disliked, abhorred, and cursed, and have three congressional investigations to try and kill my research to do this. So you better buy the books and read them. And when I see you, I'll test you. All right? And you laugh and you think I won't, but I will. Some poor soul, he's sitting here and he won't stand up. But I was talking to him today, he asked me, how did you get into this? And I looked at him and I said, you haven't read my books. And he said, no. I said, don't talk to me. Talk to me after. And he did, and now he's... So John, next time we get together, I'm testing you. All right, now why? Why am I saying this? Why am I doing this? Because, yes, okay, because I'm the historian of this field. I'm the historian of the destruction of human sexuality in the global world. The rest of the folks come by and they're going to tell you about the dead bodies. And you need to know about those dead bodies. You need to see those pictures of those young women. But you also need to know how we got there. Because going after the so-called just outer edge is pruning the tree. We have to understand that the kind of belief system that we began with has got to be exposed. People have to understand how this great nation got to a place where those young women are pictured on that screen, where in Thailand they reflect exactly what we're talking about. And Morgan Perry is here somewhere, and she can be talking to you guys. There she is back there. Everybody get a chance to talk to Morgan Perry. And of course, Shelley Lubman is one of my great heroines, and she will introduce you to the realities that we're now dealing with, which never in a million years could have occurred until we had been tricked in the first place with the science of Kinsey and with the fraud of Playboy. Okay, now we can just move right ahead. Thank you. Oh, I do this. There we go. Okay, so Pat Fagan mentioned what was going on in Ireland. And yes, how many people here remember the white slave trade? Know about. Know about. Yeah, I'm the only one who remembers the white slave trade. Yeah, know about the white slave trade. So, let's see, do I point it this way? That way. Okay, yeah. Oh, oops, wrong way. Okay, let's try that again. Would you just move that forward for me? Thank you. There we go. Okay, right. And I'll signal. That's probably better. All right, so circa 1870, the purity movement of Christian women's groups joined the suffragettes and others worldwide, and they halted at that time the global sex trade. And it was global. It was an international sex trade. In our country, it was the Mann Act. Thank you. Click, click. Yeah, and we won. We won that battle, or those folks won that battle. These were a committed group. These were committed groups of people, and they were dealing with also prohibition. Click. Thank you. Okay, what did Aldous Huxley say about Brave New World? He said, to control a nation, you have to destroy its history. You have to destroy the knowledge that life was ever better. And in my new book on sexual sabotage, I spent a lot of time on World War II. How did the greatest generation produce the baby boomers? How did you go from 1948, the people who won World War II, saved us and the world from tyranny? How did we go from those folks to their children in Woodstock? How did it happen? That was abnormal. So we have to learn how that happened so that we know how we were manipulated. Thank you. Okay, there are only 2 American law standards. By the way, right now my archive is being placed into Liberty University's law school. They will have a Reisman archive with all of the material that I've collected over these years within the law school, and it's very thrilling. Why? Because the second book deals a great deal with how the laws were gutted and changed. There were only 2 American standards. Pre-Kinsey era was the common law, biblical authority, marital sex was the only way to go, otherwise, it was all criminal. Post-Kinsey, the Model Penal Code was created, the American Law Institute Model Penal Code. Suddenly we had scientific authority to displace biblical authority, because you can't change your laws without having a precedent, and the precedent became science. The National Research Council says that research on human sexuality is divided into the Kinsey, post-Kinsey, pre-Kinsey, and post-Kinsey eras. Thank you. Okay, this is pre-Kinsey, ladies and gentlemen. According to John Brokaw, you all are familiar with the Greatest Generation works that he produced. Pre-Kinsey era, by every measure of sex and crime, it was better. They based their belief system on faith in God. They were true to American values of personal responsibility, duty, honor, faith, the ethos of the family and the community. That was the basis of our nation. Now, I can't go into great detail on this. I have a lot of it. Whoops, go back. That's okay. I can't go, but I have a lot. This is the basis of the first part of my second book, of that last book. And that is what happened in World War II. Well, Kinsey's own guys, he and his young men, his young boyfriends, because he was homosexual, having sex with his co-authors and with his subjects, they were all draft dodgers. And while over 80% of the people he interviewed were interviewed during World War II. Now, during World War II, our guys were where? You bet. And the only people he actually even could interview at home were homosexuals, criminals, and a whole broad spectrum of other dysfunctional people. So that's how we got the so-called data that told us, which was in the clip we didn't play you, that told us that 95% of American men were really engaged in sexual behavior that was criminal, that told us that 87% of single women who were pregnant had abortions with no problem, that 27% of our married women had abortions with no problem. Y'all hearing that? That adultery was normal, common, with no what? That rape was a victimless, that children are sexual from? Yes. And that therefore adults can have sex with? Yes. So all of the laws would be gutted. Do you understand what we're saying? A small, deviant group of men who were at Indiana University with their little cadre of judges and people got together and gutted American laws. All American sex laws. Is that insane? Shouldn't that be known? Shouldn't that be part of our congressional investigation before we go into other wars? All right, hit it. Thank you. Age of consent, pre-Kinsey, was at the lowest 16 years, mostly 18. There was one state, 21. Now we have age of consent can be down to 12 or even younger than this, depending on how they go with it. Rape would get death. The laws said that you could have capital punishment in 18 states, and the rest of the states was life in prison. Now, what do we have, 6 months to 4 years? It can be less, depending, yeah. Statutory rape, the same. Death in 16 states. Now we can have 0 to 2 years. You know about that. Especially thank you, Planned Parenthood. Seduction, how many of you knew that seduction could get prison or fine in all the states? And in California, it was a felony. Is that interesting, people? Anybody? Yes, it is, isn't it? How did you gut the laws? Okay, next. You can't whisper sweet nothings. Adultery, prison or fine, and now, of course, it's decriminalized, which means it's nothing. And what happened as a result? Well, then you had fault divorce in those years. Now we have what? No fault divorce and no alimony, and we have poverty, and we have everything else that goes with it. Child custody in those years, mama was still pretty straight, so custody usually went to mama, and now it's financially based. I deal with cases all the time in which an actual felon gets custody of his child, even if it's an incest offender. I've had that happen. So abortion, of course, absolutely illegal. Legal now in almost all cases. And now we're moving into medical marijuana, and that's a huge issue in terms of where we are with respect to sexual slavery and the seduction of children and recruiting them into prostitution by giving them drugs, okay? So this is going to be hell on wheels for us people. So 1948, Kinsey's free sex concepts will restore essentially what? The white slave trade, except it's all racist. This is what restores sexual slavery today. He was in every magazine. He was the most famous man for a full decade. Time, News, Collier's, every major newspaper was a mass media blitz to tell the American public that we were all sexual adventurers, we were all not, we were all engaged in all this stuff, but we were lying. We were lying about it. We were what their children said, hypocrites, the big H, hypocrites, because we said we went to church and it was important, but why we were doing all this sort of bizarre behavior. From 48 to the 60s, there were 50 law review journals. Now there are thousands and thousands that wrote like the one below, which was the Group for the Advancement of Psychiatry. I can do a whole series, by the way, just on the law, just on these kinds of statements, that full responsibility for sexuality should begin at what age? All right. This is 1950, I think, yeah. Okay, just hit the bottom because I remember what year that, yeah, 1950, in Psychiatrically Deviated Sex Offender Report. Okay, Kinsey's data, published in over 30 languages now, by the way, were the points by which we steered, all right? All right? What were Kinsey's data that gutted our laws, that changed our laws to where every single person in this room is now in this room, all right? 1948, children are sexual from beings. Kinsey, who himself was a sadomasochistic homosexual, said that, thank you, that the screams, the weeping, the fainting, the crying, the falling down, the striking of what he called the partner, that those were all what he called orgasms, all right? And so this is a 4-year-old, right, having 26 what? Now your scientific human sexuality field has never repudiated this. This is the father of the whole field, the father of the human sexuality field, the father of Planned Parenthood's arguments about the father of the arguments in Roe v. Wade. And nobody ever asked, how do you know that a 4-year-old has 26 orgasms in 24 hours? That is a round-the-clock experiment, isn't it? You're waking this child up to do this? What are you doing to this child? This is torture. Next. Thank you. Okay, so 1953, Kinsey radicalized then Hugh Hefner. His book, Sexual Behavior in the Human Male, comes out. Hugh Hefner's a virgin. He's in college. And he says, I will be, what, Kinsey's pamphleteer. I will train other people, tell them the truth about our parents and their sexuality, so they won't trust their parents either. Hefner trains billions of men worldwide in Kinsey's pedophile-based, anti-God third world sex. Few men, and this is a big one, few men saw the anti-manhood, the emasculation, the impotence that lurked in the Playboy sex. All pornography creates impotence in the male viewer. All of it from beginning to end. That's good. Next. In 1960, most American men were still virgins. Intercourse, this was college men, was considered to be too precious with anyone but his fiancée. This is written by the Kronhausens, very important people in the law. They hated, they're very pro-sex. They were supporters of Kinsey and so forth. And so they said, they were very upset to say that Joe College was blushingly romantic about sex morals, that he was saying that premarital sex intercourse was utterly unethical. This is still the United States of America, people. That was still your greatest generation left over, all right? Oral sex was disdained. Anal was preposterous. And homosexuality as well. Almost zero gays were reported in college at the time. John Rabin reported I did a study for the United States Department of Justice on images of children, crime, and violence in Playboy, Penthouse, and Hustler. Jerry Kerr can tell you some about what happened to my poor study and me. We had 3 congressional investigations to try to destroy that study. Nothing gets 3 congressional investigations except, certainly no scientific study ever did, except this. So there was a huge lobby back in 1985. And what did John Rabin, head of the National Organization, National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, said? The study must be read by all concerned with the ways pornography and violence in the media affect the incidence of child sexual exploitation and abuse. And that, my dear ladies and gentlemen, 1985, So we have here, oops, go back 1 second. I love this picture of the little girl. This is 1976, leaning over, looking at her little brother using Playboy, right? They're going to now go play house. How are they going to play house? The question was, whatever happened to childhood? And we know by 1985 that almost all of our kids were learning about sex. From where? Playboy. Thank you. So, Planned Parenthood and its funder, Playboy funded Planned Parenthood, will increase female cancer epidemic because early coitus, multiple partners, that increases STDs like Hep B and HPV. Planned Parenthood sex ed curriculum trains early multiple partner coitus. They say do it. They do it with everyone. I have lots of that documentation. Thus, they increase Hep B and HPV and the cervical cancer market. As the STDs create a market for cervical cancer exams, then Planned Parenthood school sex ed is the key support for Planned Parenthood's business. Do you follow that? It's a fascinating little loop. Okay, hit. Thank you. By 1955, Rockefeller's model penal code, that slide belonged later, but I had it in the wrong place. It's okay. His model penal code, Rockefeller funded, trivializes all sex crimes. That's the American Law Institute Model Penal Code. Kinsey is the authority in their sex offenses footnotes. Sex crimes are normalized, hence victimless crimes. And if we are calm, child rape then will be viewed as harmless. So we need to parole all sex predators, and guess what? We did and we do, correct? Next slide, thank you. Now, you aren't going to have a chance to look at that, but go in the book, and it's in the book, and it's on my website, so you should get this, because you should know what happened. It goes from the common law, how did that get switched? It goes down from the common law, the Kinsey reports go into all of the states of the Union. They all believe this through the American Law Institute Model Penal Code. It goes down to the state legislatures, and then that goes into the courts, the medicine, it goes into the schools, sex education, and across the length and breadth of this land, and of course it becomes global. Thank you. 1964, big pornography is sex education field. All of the sexperts go into the courtrooms and win the cases back then. All academic sex degrees mandate what was called the, excuse me ladies and gentlemen, fuckorama. That's what they called it. That's their training. Sexual attitude restructuring accreditation. You can get 100 pornography, that is use of prostitution hours, for your higher degree. How do you become a sexologist? Anybody? How do you become a sexologist? Everybody in psychology and in sociology and in every other field have to go to the, we don't teach outside our discipline. So they have to go from their discipline to sexology to get their degrees and to get their training. So Kinsey's training, their trained graduates become our legislators, judges, prosecutors, psychologists, so-called clergy, they're everywhere. Media, Pentagon, the SEC, White House, Senate, Congress, and churches. Thank you. This is Playboy, ladies and gentlemen. I'm not showing you all of them. I have a complete, from the beginning, 1953, all the way up till today, series of images so that you see the impotence promotion material, the abortion, everything, the sadomasochism, and so on. They went from the cartoons, and I'm skipping past a whole lot of that. In 1971, she says, you call that being abused. Age 1, I'm already playmate material. To 1973, this child has been handcuffed for incest, how one family solves its discipline problems. Y'all thought Playboy was innocent? It was never innocent. It was always there to condition all of us to get to a point where we would end up here, dealing with those young women's pictures that you saw up there. And that is global, ladies and gentlemen. And as you know, as we talked about in terms of the white slave trade, in terms of where the Irish community was and other communities back in the 1800s, oh, no, he gave me permission to do more. Thank you. Thank you. That's Bill. He's wonderful. All right. As you know, that, you shouldn't have distracted me like that. All right. Hefner train. Okay, next. Okay. So this would end Judeo-Christian fidelity, fatherhood for this cultic sex with adults. That would then lead to the child sex traffic. That is Kinsey's disciple. All right. 1976. his sex views were reaching over 50 countries via Playboy. They said, what? There's lots of news. There's more eroticism in a small child than most adults are willing to acknowledge. Now, these are your people who are training human sexuality educators. That's the head. That's the president of the Institute, the Advanced Study of Human Sexuality. These are his friends, his staff, his students, his faculty. This is the dean of that. This is your Harvard of human sexuality training. And I have the book From Meditations of the Gift of Sexuality. These are the people who train Mrs. Jones, who has to come down and get her 3-unit credits because she's going to be teaching AIDS prevention. Would you want your kids learning from them? Okay, pornography causes impotence, that is, men without their own power. When a man needs a picture, a fantasy, that means he cannot relate to the person he's with. That means he's already impotent. As wives commonly keep hubby potent, then marriage wives are the first line of attack, and child molestation will increase globally. You go down in age with your victims. This was 1977 Wales Conference on Love and Attraction when I met the academic pedophile lobby. Time magazine was reporting on that lobby, that they were promoting incest way back in 1980. This is the Journal of Pedophilia, which is produced by that lobby, and that is that has a list of who's who in the field of human sexuality education. All this should be in a courtroom, ladies and gentlemen. I shouldn't be standing here doing it just here. It should be in a courtroom. It should be in a courtroom. Okay, the starting point is we're all pedophiles, they said. Okay. Kinsey, the weakest link in the pantheon of the hot sex cases, his 10% scale. You all know Kinsey's the guy who started the idea that homosexuality is 10% of the population, and therefore we need to change our laws. Well, of course, he was, so there you are. Next. The Department of Justice, you should know this, has a safeguard program. Professionals need emotional help, they said, for job when they're dealing with pornography on the job. And let's remember about the 5,000, I'm sorry. About the 5,200, go back, thank you, child pornography law users in the Pentagon. For a long time, says the Department of Justice, people in law enforcement, military, social work, and so on, when their jobs included viewing images of child pornography, they were afraid to admit they needed emotional help. They had to establish special programs so nobody now who has to watch pornography any length of time is unprotected. They are safeguarded. Our kids are not. We are not, but they are, and they are professionals. I could tell you a story about how that happened, but we don't have time. All right, 58,200 non-family domestic child abductions just in 1999. Thank you. Okay, impotence-based porn drives no-fault divorce, traffic in prostitution, child sex abuse, and so forth. The sex therapists long have urged pornography to spice up marriages, love. Now, what they call sexual anorexia, which is impotence, exposes their direct role in pandemic impotence, loss of attachment to God. You cannot be attached to God when you are attached to porn. And if you're attached to porn and you have been driven away from God, then you're driven into the other side of the fence. So we have all these guys admitting that they're impotent now. Okay, yeah. So big porn. The brain sees what it does, where I'm leading into. The brain sees what we don't see. Mirror neurons, we know, mimic the action that's seen. The sex is felt in the viewer's organs, even without cognitive consent. Eyes, visual cortex, down the central nervous system, down the spinal cord, directly into the genitals. So there's nothing the person actually can do about that transition. Visual pornography subverts speech, and First Amendment just won a big case in Florida, a child pornography case on this, moving ahead. Planned Parenthood sex educators shape the teen brain with school pornography. Emotional images activate the amygdala. Bill is going to talk a lot about that. But the young brains are going to shut off their thinking process when they see porn. Never mind. Solutions. Go back. Solutions. Solutions. See, I'm almost at the end. Oh, let me see. Winning courtrooms in the court of public opinion. Thank you. Aldous Huxley, remember, said, to control a nation, you want to destroy its history and all its knowledge that life was ever. Thank you. Okay, hit it. Thank you. Next. Yeah. This is the real upside, everybody. Marketers have known for a long time that 2.5% of any group can actually remarket, alter the structure of a society and change new values. The homosexual movement has done it. I would certainly think we have 2.5% of the population. Okay, we can't go into big pharma to any great extent, but it's the sex industrial complex now we're dealing with. You have to know that big pharma is deeply involved with all the money it makes out of all of the dysfunctions that we have addressed. That was from remember I told you? 1994, we won the libel suit in Holland. So you can win in the United States. If you can win in Holland on child pornography, you can win anywhere. Okay. We won in Stefan. That was a homosexual case, major military case, but it's not been used in the arguments in military debates. We win if people know that we won in child pornography. In '89, we won in neurochemical evidence. In 1989, Ventura. These are all just wins that were very good ones. Let's go. A presidential apology we need. We want to restore the Kinsey investigative H.R. 2749. Very important, because then you destroy the credibility of the sexology field. Do you understand what I'm saying? The key, the weakest link, really is Kinsey. You put up that chart, table 24, table 48, table 20. What is it? 34, thank you. Table 34. You put up that chart. I did it on the Donahue show. He was finished. There is nothing anybody can say. So we already had in 1994, or 1995, 51 signatures. We need new hearings. We can prove that the sexology field is based on fraud, that we can prove that Planned Parenthood and Kinsey are involved in the sex crimes against children, that sexology defrauded the state. We need to initiate apologies, just like the president did on LSD and on Tuskegee. We need to initiate demand apologies to the child victims, to locate the victims. We have another new victim. To prove all pornography hijacks speech in the First Amendment, that it causes impotence and trafficking, and set the record straight. This is the American Legislative Exchange Council that has come to support us in terms of restoring legal protections by exposing. These are lists of some of the signatories in 1995. All the material now is ready. We can do this again. It's all set. We've got all the arguments for a legislative action. Okay. So there, and now we're talking about kids producing and distributing their own pornography. So will prosecuting hardcore stop the sex traffic? No, we have got to get the history of this sex traffic into everybody's knowledge base. So that's what all that is for, that I have out there. I would say teach the books, get the DVDs, get them in your schools, your libraries, your churches, your legislatures, and write for more information. Tons of stuff is on my website. I'm getting too old for all this, people. Jerry, I don't know how long, right? I can keep this up. So I need everybody to get involved, listen to these great speakers, and how bad am I? I'm good. Okay.